Hey there, and welcome to the Office of the IT Guy, the show where we celebrate the people and talk about the technology that's changing our world. I am your host, Eric the IT Guy Hendricks, and my mission here is to share a love for open source and help build a stronger community. I'm so thankful that you tuned in because the office is now open. Hey there, and welcome to episode 3 of the IT Guy Show. I'm your host, Eric the IT Guy Hendricks, and I'm really excited to be bringing this topic to you today. It's huge. Everyone's talking about AI, but I think there's so many things that could go wrong, but in the right hands, I think there's so much that could go right. Now, in case you're expecting to hear Natalie from Shipyard today, had a last minute reschedule, so we're working to reschedule with Natalie here soon, but we'll be talking about ephemeral environments in the not too distant future. So I was really excited that I had a couple of pre-recorded episodes. So really excited today because we've got a huge topic and a very passionate guest today. His name is JJ Asgar. He's a developer advocate at IBM. And not just any developer advocate. He is one of the members of the Instruct Lab team at IBM. A little bit of background before we dive in. IBM developed an AI called Instruct Lab and partnered with Red Hat because they wanted it to be open source. So IBM, of course, owns Red Hat, but IBM came to Red Hat and said, "Hey, look, we've got this thing. We want to open source it. We want it to become kind of a standard, and to be able to open source it well." And so Red Hat's entire business is built on open source. So now Red Hat and Instruct Lab at Summit this past May talked about the open sourcing of Instruct Lab and how it's designed to be not just an open source LLM, but all of the data, all the processes is going to be open source. So you can actually go to Instruct Lab on GitHub, and we'll have the links in the show notes. But the idea is that AI will be better, it will be safer, it will be more powerful and more secure if it's open source. If you've followed me for any length of time, you know that open source is at the heart of my technology dreams. So I definitely agreed with this. So I met JJ at DevOps Days Kansas City, and he gave a very, very passionate delivery on Instruct Lab, on the future of AI in specifically, some of the dangers, but also some of the benefits. And so JJ was kind enough to sit down with me at the event and kind of talk about AI and what he sees. It was kind of funny that we met at DevOps Days Kansas City because we kind of had similar senses of humor. And the funny thing is, he showed up with a Watson X t-shirt on. I had a Red Hat shirt on, and we were like, we know each other. Ish. So we sat down, we had a great conversation. So without further ado, here is my conversation about Instruct Lab and AI with JJ Asgar from IBM. All right, so I am joined with JJ, and JJ works for IBM, so kind of a distant relative of mine as a Red Hatter. Why don't you introduce yourself, and we'll dive into today's topic.
Sure. Hi, my name is JJ. I'm a developer advocate for IBM. I'm not 100% sure what that means anymore, but I get to represent IBM in a lot of public spaces. I understand my privilege is rare, and I try to do the best I can for our community.
Awesome. And so you and I actually were in person at an event in Kansas City, DevOps Days 2024, and very quickly realized that we had a lot in common, a lot to talk about. So against his will, I actually drug him into the speaker room and stuck a microphone in his face, which he was more than generous to pick up and agree to talk. So one of the things that is running rampant in our industry right now is this concept of AI.
Yep.
And I agree with your assessment that AI and artificial intelligence are two completely different things.
Yep.
So why don't we start out just by defining our terms? When we say AI, what does that bring to mind?
Yes. So what I've learned very, very quickly, speaking in the public about this stuff, is that first of all, everyone thinks that AI is what we had in movies, and it's not. So what we're having to do is re-level set what expectations of this new technology is being created and what it can actually do for us as humanity. I like to start a lot of these conversations with also saying that you'll hear me only ever say artificial intelligence maybe once or twice to reference that other thing, because what we have is AI, which is not intelligent. It is the best librarian or yes man you'll ever, or crony, whatever you want to say, that you'll ever have in your life. It is just trying to figure out what you need and to 100% of what it's looking for to be able to tell that story and answer those questions you give it.
So when you're training an AI model, you ask it a question, it provides information, you give it feedback as to usually it's a thumbs up or a thumbs down. So when you say it's the best yes man, it's that training response of was what I provided you accurate? Was it what you were looking for? You give it a thumbs up, that's a reward. And so the model itself almost learns in that situation.
So you just showed your hand a little bit there.
Uh-oh.
That interface of the yes and no or thumbs up and thumbs down is done by one of my competitors. That is not actually a standard way that we tell AI what it's doing. And that competitor is the one that was first to market and kind of laid the land and made the expectations for everybody now. And it's amazing how quickly when we go out into the public, everyone assumes it's a chatbot or it's a way to communicate back and forth and have that conversation. But the AI space is so much more. It has a whole world of good things that it could do for humanity. It all can do some really bad things for humanity. And part of being technologists and actually engineers in space is that we need to learn every little choice we make will have ripple effects in this space going on gates. So we have to slow down. We have to take a breath, hit those brakes. Because frankly, if we make the wrong choice, conscious bias is real. Bias is real. And before we know it, we might actually, I have kids, right? I want my kids to be in a better society than I do. And the technology we build right here, if we start implementing on the way we want to, it could get dark really fast.
And I think we'll touch on that in a bit. And I kind of derailed this with saying too many words. So we've got this of AI, which is not artificial intelligence.
Yes.
Now, one of the terms that usually comes up is an M.
Yep.
And how does that fact this picture?
So LLM, which audience, to make sure they understand, is a large model. It is a natural language or NLP, or language processing, to interface to figure out thing that you would like to get done. So the ChatGPTs of the world, I'll just call it because everybody knows what it is. When you talk to it, like, hey, give me a markdown, give me a table of all the city or the capitals in the United States. This table format for me. It what you asked for and then outputs that. Large language model do that type of work for. But as you start going down, do so much. Thing called context that is very important very quickly. It needs to understand what you ask for. And as you start going down farther into this space, you quickly that there are strong limitations in the AI space start really engaging them as a whole. One of the things I talk to people very quickly is a nerd, right? Like why else would I be at a conference, right?
Right.
And I've been to a few other very free and open source. And I was an IRC on Freenode in the 90s. But what I'm trying to make, the point is, one of the biggest challenges, just with like that we live in right now, versions of software, a little bit more polish around them, because you're trying to do that stuff and build off of it.
Right.
Well, if you're right, you should know, but audience, if you didn't know, they're all meant for open source AI, and it's real recognized that AI is real. We give you that data set to be able to actually know how this from the very beginning. So unconscious biases, those buy in it, or train that only this president on the planet, right? I'm not going to call you.
Right.
As you start looking at a picture of the world, you need to be able to see that model, frankly, the correct way. I know correct isn't quite.
Right.
There are competitors out that are not in the open source that will never give us this. And it is very important, especially for our economy, and that those data sets through open source allows you to get open source, source code. What is the source code of a model? I mean, it's not a horrible 100% true, okay, admit it, but for the share of the conversation, the data was trained on, the model that's, or the data the model is, say, source code.
Yes.
And to the data, it's done.
So that's a great direction of the conversation, because that's how you and I started talking. An excerpt on, I had a Red Hat, so it was just, conversation. Never in my career seen me be in a position like it is. Looking back at my career, there was a virtual, there was green, there's all these crazy things. Last I interviewed Laura, DevOps, an idea instead as like a position that you hire for. With this AI move, there's much that we have to get right. And as anyone that knows me I have been time Linux and open. That's been my career years now. I mean, it goes all when we had, and I looked at vacation exam book versus soft Windows book right then and there.
Nice.
But what comes to mind is to lead that charge community. I'm a bit biased. At the giant red fedora. The Red Hat is probably one of the leading companies, by extension, IBM. AI space. We're not alone. It's not random trying to build AI and slap an open label on it. There are open source models suited to that are for training. Any that you'd like to call out specifically?
Well, I call it that specific. No, you're getting me to.
Far too many times. You're picking up all of my.
Exactly. So I may have been part of these things. But that one thing that we should audience, just to make sure that they level set on this, they'll understand of what we're about to try to talk about. There's a website out there that called huggingface.co. I want your audience to your thought in their mind. Hugging Face is the GitHub AI. When you think of GitHub, you think of the way people PRs around or whatever. People have code out there that you can run on your laptop. Hugging Face is a place for AI data and models and data and things like that. To recognize, you should go to huggingface.com and start poking around. Well, it's overwhelming.
Right.
Because one of the biggest problems, open source AI right now, anyone can take an open source, whatever I'm calling Hugging Face, don't have to give it back to the actual quote unquote source. And they can fork right off of it, start trying to do something else. So, if you will, there, because if you start putting this in your business, would you someone, frankly, start doing work for you when you have an AR?
Right.
Seems like you. So that's which is the open that I have the privilege of being with Start Research, and just recently a whole hog run.
Yep.
And last week, question
at the time of recording, it was Summit.
where we are building a tech of knowledge that we have they use exactly what we put from it, continually make in. Flow through PRs. Yes, I know. I'm sorry, Morgan. Through the workflow for good. You're probably wondering, public good?
Suspicious already.
Yes. Well, the operating system out there called Fedora, right?
I'm vaguely.
Okay, good. No, it's been around a little while. I think it's that's right.
Just released.
There you go. See, I paid. Yeah. So, what is Fedora, right? A premier operating system that something called RHEL.
Yep.
Red Hat makes a bit of money off of, right?
I've seemed to feed my family through Red Hat.
There you go. Good. Well, it turns out extremely well, right? Where you work in the open, you come down to product. Recognize this now? I mean, what is Fedora? A public good of an operating on pretty much can think of. I don't think Spark supported it anymore.
I don't think so.
Well, I mean, who's if you're a nerd running Spark, that's the majority. Instruct Lab is with the Merlinite Granite model. We training those in the upstream. So of course, eventually other business and to run but you actually things in to the model. New knowledge is right now on Wikipedia, but the idea eventually take documentation or publish from government, teach the model these things, be able to have it know these side of it, so governments can answer questions. Pie in the sky. I haven't quite actually gotten to work yet, but the U.S. has all through Congress.
Yes.
They're all available for everyone to get those. I'm thinking about once a week or something like that, and then using my model questions about all those, so we could actually have a public ask this model these questions, questions about the bills that are coming out. What is the actual budget thing? Actually reads 600 pages of, right?
I can't get some of our systems 100 dollars of RHEL 9 release.
You see exactly understand where I'm going with this. So we're trying to do this in the public. So we take away the, what's a good word for it? The whole, but I do want training these models, right? People can run this stuff on their own. Fortunately, to train the model right now requires a Mac, which unfortunately a lot of people out there, expensive, on some, but gaming PC in a very long. I would like to, I want to cheat to get budget build, gaming PC that would be the Instruct Lab, and I was like, I might as well, it was money. It's depressing. But the point of this is we're public, so we actually have resources that we're good the community from IBM, and I hope that made sense. I went kind of.
No, you're fine. Anyone that's listened to me present ever know how to do the same. They knew what they were getting into. I like this approach, and I'm a Red Hatter, but because I believe this in between RHEL, say, and a downstream product. So got words in order. So all this is available, and I want to highlight the fact that there's this. The first, what are you using? And then the second is the data. Is that data?
So we have two now that we are recording today.
It'll probably be different tomorrow.
Oh, well, I came sitting down with you. It was verified that the end-to-end run is running as we speak.
Nice.
Which is an open IBM.
Which will be folks are hearing that.
But if you go to Hugging Face IBM Granite / you'll actually see that model right there. The Merlinite model, Hugging / Instruct / Merlin, spell Merlinite, just
or check the show notes.
There you go, perfect. And you will actually see the rebuilt in a cadence. We have some of the initial goals that were in some conversations, but we have rolled those cadence back because should be hard, man. So we're going to hit, but right now everything will happen. It will happen. We % going down all those paths. Unfortunately, some engineering, we've hit some friction in some other spaces, but that's projects. Like, know that this is not like you don't release it to work, and then first. I mean, I still remember compiling kernel back in the day, right? Yeah. When make menu config out, my life all of a sudden got hell, right? God, I'm so old. But in all seriousness, this is an open source project. Please, if your audience is interested, join us. Like, if you want to be part of the and actually do some good, really, we're going to be slow, right? Yep. And if you just talk to my leadership there tomorrow, and I'm taking the privilege of talking to and really things down. If we don't do this right, I know we got to understand that. I do, but if we don't, I don't see in the world my kids are going to grow up in. And maybe this is the defeat. Maybe this is I've just watched Flies in my future, right, or whatever. I can see these I see how this. I can see the trying to do, and I'm not saying we can't do it. I believe Instruct Lab is the project out there at the time that is taking this serious, the betterment of. And just like in the DevOps, when automation starts taking people's jobs, and people were right? When Ansible became so old, and by the way, but I understand pretty damn good. Automation started taking people's jobs because they're like, well, I spent 3 days building a server. Yep. Well, if you wrote this and then it built it the first time in 2.5 hours, that gave you 2.5 days, something more.
Right.
AI in that. Imagine what we society when we're spending time making things for everybody instead of 3 days against a wall.
I love it. And as that sysadmin, 3 days, and then you had to wait a week. Did whatever security did. There was something better I wanted to do, whether that was technology automating or deal with 200 tasks that I had.
Did you ever have that team to come in and all of a sudden be like, hey, so against this thing, got this bconfig thing they got to run on this thing, see all the stuff I'm looking for? Did you just say bconfig too?
Not that specific example, but definitely had the same problem.
Universities, man. Universities.
It's like, told me that? Yeah. No? Okay.
Actually, no, just the quickest joke. This is true. This is 100. When I was working, had a customer. We wrote a chef to install a Puppet, the Puppet local with the Puppet modules, the bconfig 2, so it could check into another thing. So you're using Puppet to talk to bconfig 2 somewhere else? And they're like, yeah, that's exactly what we did. Why? Because but write a chef cookbook to do this whole thing. Thinking about standardizing on Ansible. I'm like, why am I in this room? It doesn't make any sense. It was a couple weeks.
I don't doubt that. I'm also thinking we'll have to have as part of like a episode of all the horror story.
The funny thing, I make them up on the spot. No, I'm inventive.
Right.
I can't be that inventive.
I can't conferences I've gone to. How many where the routine is you sue in the morning, bridges, and far too many notches, doing the same thing.
Yep.
Fix source.
Yep.
And back when I was a sysadmin,
That's true.
so many good and so involved in, if you're not involved in this group or anything, some of my best colleagues are conference fans. I only see a few times a year conferences, but it's a beaten track. But
How you find kindred spirit. One of the reasons for advocates are as a community aspect and genuine. I can talk about the whole career path in another. But I do want to mention a good kid who has actually felt the talking about.
yes,
Any developer advocate never actually done the work. They're just marketing mouthpiece. They have the title of developer advocate.
getting mouthpiece. I find that
Well, hey, you got the term developer.
actually no. I'm just
Oh, nice. Okay. Oh, it was.
rel instead of OpenShift.
See, I paid.
Actually, it presents from Chris Short. Yep.
Oh, that's awesome. That's
Two
awesome.
episodes together, and it said, "Oh, by the way, this is
It's amazing. That's the point.
the podcast."
Nice. Perfect, man.
An outro. But I've never developer, and I write crap. If someone ever comes up with an operator, will be the first application.
Hey, if you can, you're a developer.
The program in YAML now.
Well, I have projects has taught me so much that I can master than my winter. This I go into this few things. I'm like, oh, this and that. I got to put going here because anyway, we'll talk about that later.
What JJ's trying to say on people, it's not that hard to.
Oh my God, so many.
Well, JJ, is there like to send you to follow you on social media?
Pretty, just looking for JJ Asgar, ASGHAR. Pretty easy to. I do have the email address at ibm.com. I really do. So if you're about I'm an open book. Just drop me an email. I mean, you can find me later and all that stuff. But most of the, frankly, I know you are, and I am too. Don't worry.
It's safe virtual space.
Safe space. Please reach out. If I can ever help you, so please find.
Awesome. I love that. Well, JJ, thank forward to having you back on the show real soon.
Thank you, sir.
Welcome back. I hope you found that exciting. I know just listening to it during post editing, I got really excited about AI and the future of the industry again. JJ is a very powerful speaker. I don't think it did him justice in the audio, but you could see on his face as I was interviewing him just the passion, the concern with the future of the industry. It was really incredible to get to talk to JJ. I hope to have him on the show again soon. Hopefully have a technical demo lined up, because my hope is that the IT Guy show is not just talking heads. It's not just me, or not just me and a guest. But my hope is to also include like technical demos and that kind of thing. So part of this is just building back the audience. Another part of it is just kind of getting all the streams going, but also had some really great conversations over the last couple of months, a lot of which came from DevOps Days Kansas City. So maybe I should go to another conference here real soon. So definitely subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you're listening to the audio podcast, make sure to hit subscribe. That way you get notified anytime I release new content. And until then, feel free to join my Discord, check out the show notes for additional links. But until then, thank you so much for joining me, and we'll see you again real soon.